Hey guys, Anthony here. Thanks for joining me today on Running for Distance. Waiting for my son at soccer conditioning, and I've got some time, and I wanted to just lay some stuff out for you guys and to share something that's been on my mind, and thought it would be something good that everybody could get something out of, especially for those of you that are just starting out as a runner or have questions about running, right? And so oftentimes, as runners, we often ask, how much mileage do I need to be putting in for my training? And that's a great question. I get asked that quite a bit. And I even ask myself that at times is, how much mileage do I need to be running? Well, first of all, you've got to look at the whole situation. How long have you been running leading up to this question? Is it something where you have a good baseline of mileage already set in stone and you're already pretty well conditioned and you're getting ready to roll into a new training plan? Or are you starting fresh out of the box, as I would like to say it, and you haven't been running at all, right? Somebody that has more base mileage and more conditioning is going to be more likely to be able to run more mileage starting out and have less risk of injury versus somebody you're gonna have to start real low, build yourself up, and establish yourself a nice baseline. And then you can start adding more mileage on as you become more conditioned, your body becomes more used to the wear and tear. You know, you may do that. For somebody that's just starting out, go out and run 2 to 3 times a week, get your body acclimated, you know, get used to the wear and tear, get used to the mileage again, and introduce your body, whether you have ever run at all or it's been a long time since you've been running, you know, introduce your body to the pain train again. So, you know, that could be just going out 2 to 3 times a week and, you know, 2 or 3 or 5 miles, you know, up to 10 to 12 miles for the week, and just do that for several weeks just to get some acclimation set back in. But for those of you that are more geared towards running a particular distance or running for a particular goal, you're going to want to have more mileage because, granted, you're going to want to accomplish these things. But you may be a runner where you're only wanting to run 5 miles or 5K, I should say. You know, you want to go out and you want to run 5Ks, or you want to do a 10K, or my favorite distance in all races that I've ever done, the half marathon. But, you know, whether you're training for a 5K, 10K, half marathon, 50K, 50 miler, 100 miler, 200 miler, if you're crazy enough for it, multi-day events, whatever it might be, you've got to establish, some parameters. And so real basic, right? You've got to have some base mileage and you've got to be able to build off of a certain amount of running per week, per run. So for example, someone that's wanting to go out and run a 5K, you need to be running at least twice a week and covering at least 10 miles during those sessions combined. At least 2 runs a week with 10 miles minimum. That's minimum, right? For a 10K, you want to knock out at least 15 miles a week, and that's within at least a minimum of 3 runs. So if you're going to go out and do 15 miles a week, 3 times a week, that's 5 miles a run. Half marathon, you know, as you can see, things are progressing upwards. Half marathon, 25 miles a week minimum over the course of 3 runs. A marathon, minimum of 30 miles a week with the same, at least 4 runs per week. 50 milers and 100 milers, that's when things start to get a little bit more serious. At minimum, you should be doing, and this is just your average mileage per week. This isn't when you start ramping your mileage up before you get closer to the race. This is what you should be doing at minimum to get your body acclimated to time on your feet. And that should be 40 miles a week, at least 4 runs a week. And so for me, during my 100 miler, I was running 5 times a week. I had 2 rest days, Monday and Friday, okay? Usually a 3 to 5 mile run Tuesday, generally about an 8 mile run on Wednesday, and a 3 to 5 mile run on Thursday, rest day on Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday were my extra long runs, and we're talking 3 and 4 hour runs back to back, those long runs that we oftentimes talk about, of getting your body acclimated to the long distance and taxing your body, and then going into the next run on Sunday being tired and running on tired legs. That's how you train for those ultra marathons, is you got to run on tired legs and you build that conditioning. This mileage that I just went over is basically just to get you across the finish line comfortably where you're not dying, right? You want to go out there and to be able to put this mileage in to where your body can withstand the beating, can withstand the time, and you can go out and finish and know that you can finish because you've got the time on your feet. Now, my coach, and this is a philosophy that I've had to get used to, because all the coaches for me in the past, all the training that I've ever done was the amount of miles, based off of, hey, you need to run 30 miles a week. You need to run 50 miles a week. Not so fast. It shifts, and here's the paradigm shift, and you may have to shift yourself. For optimal performance, and this is something my coach, Coach Cliff Pittman, recommends, and he puts it in our training plans. He doesn't base our training off of mileage that we've run, especially for those that are doing ultra marathons, right? It's all about time on your feet. And so for somebody that's going to be going out and doing a 5K or a 10K, it's recommended, and this is, once again, this is for like optimal performance. You want to get between 6 to 12 hours of training on your feet every week. Half marathon runners and marathon runners, you need 7 to 15 hours of time on your feet. And this is like maximum mileage, right? This is for optimal performance. You go out and put this amount of time on your feet when you're training, you're going to do well at the event that you're training for. So, like I said, half marathon runners, if you knock out 7 to 15 hours per week, you're going to be in good shape. And then 50K, 50 miler, 100 milers, you need at least 8 to 16 hours. Now, why the differential? 8 hours versus 16 hours, that's quite a spread, guys, honestly. Well, here's the philosophy behind that. The lower number, the 8 hours, that is geared more towards older runners, more towards somebody that might be injury prone, or somebody that has a lot of time conflicts, like me as a soccer dad, or doing all sorts of stuff with work. I may not always be able to get the run in. So I may have to go, and some people prefer less mileage on their body because they're more injury prone, like I said. So they may shoot towards 8 to 9 hours a week on time on their feet versus somebody that is just a freak athlete. They're going to be shooting more towards 14 to 16 hours of running on their feet per week. Now, of course, these are 50 and 100 mile runners. So once again, 5 and 10K runners, you're going to try to go between 6 hours and 12 hours. A good number in between there is about 8 hours a week. That's almost, guys, that's almost what I run right now as an ultra runner. I hit between 8 and 10 hours per week. But for somebody that wants to cover a lot of ground in a short amount of time, if you're wanting to be an elite athlete, or if you're wanting to be as top dog as possible in some of these distances, especially 5Ks and 10Ks, the more you run, well, you're going to get that time on your feet and you're going to be conditioned. Now, the more you run and the more time on your feet that you put, you are also increasing the risk of injury. I mean, it is the law of averages, right? The more that you do something, the more likely something else is going to happen. But with time on your feet versus distance, one of the philosophies that Coach likes to share with us is, when you're going time on your feet as an ultra runner, you're accounting for things like variances, like terrain. Ultra runners, usually you're training in the hills, in the mountains, in rocky terrain, terrain that is not flat, terrain that is not smooth. It's more steep, more technical trails. And so it kind of is a trade-off, right? So if I go and do 8 hours of time on my feet, I'm generally probably going to be doing those that time in conditions that are as close to the race that I'm training for, or the event that I'm training for. So if I'm running an ultra, a trail ultra, I need to go and put 8 to 10 hours of time on my feet on those trails so that my body is used to running on rocks, uneven surfaces, roots, anything else like that that could trip me up. Because if I do 8 to 10 hours of time on my feet on the pavement, yeah, great. I'm getting good conditioning on the pavement, time on my feet. But when you go to run an event that is not the same as what you trained on, you're going to end up having some issues. And I can attest to this, guys, because I've done it myself. But here's the thing. You know your body best. Listen to your body. If 8 to 10 hours for an ultra runner, if you like to keep yourself as minimalist as possible, I recommend probably 8 to 10 hours for someone that's training for a 50K or a 50 miler. 100 milers, you probably need to go 10 to 12 miles, or 10 to 12 hours, 10 to 12 miles. You need to be averaging about 10 to 12 hours a week time on your feet. It took me a while to adapt to the time on my feet amount, and as far as hours versus miles, because I used to train nothing but miles. I'm going to go out and run 5 miles and that's it. That's fine for somebody that's training for shorter distance. If you're a 5K or 10K runner and you want to go out and do 5 or 10 miles, you're fine. But for somebody that's wanting to switch up and do more longer distances, I would probably recommend time on your feet and the amount of hours that you're training per week versus the amount of miles that you're logging per week. Remember, time on your feet and running on terrain that is similar to what you're going to be running in the race is huge. And so you need to accommodate and account for that time where the difference, I mean, honestly, running on trails, steep terrain is going to take you longer than if you go out and run that same distance on the pavement. Because on the pavement, you're going to be able to fly down the road, right? You're going to be able to move. But on trails, you're not going to be able to move as quickly. So you need to do what you can to simulate the conditions of what you're training for as closely as possible, and you should have success. Guys, this is Anthony with Running for Distance, and I hope this will help you run for distance and get that optimal performance or those goals that you're looking to achieve. And we'll talk to you guys next time. Have a great night.